Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about a really expensive problem, something that bites a lot of businesses. Why do so many automation projects just fail? Okay, let's just jump right in with a number. 60%. Think about that. That is the staggering failure rate for most business automation projects. And we're not talking about small projects either. A lot of these have budgets of over $50,000. Yeah, that's a huge number, right? It just makes you wonder, what are we getting so fundamentally wrong here? Why are we so bad at this? All right, so let's dig in. To figure this out, we've got to look at where the trouble usually starts. And honestly, it often begins with the advice we're all given. Yeah, the problem, it almost always starts with some really terrible or at least incomplete advice. You've heard it right. Just automate the tasks that are high volume and repetitive. But here's the thing, that advice is dangerously incomplete. And this is where we need a major shift in our thinking. Success, real success with automation, isn't actually about the volume. It's not about how many times you do something. It's about standardization. It's about how consistently you do it. A process that's done the same way every single time, even if it's lower volume, is a way better candidate for automation than some high-volume process that's just full of variations and exceptions. That inconsistency, that's a total recipe for disaster. I mean, check out this real-world example. You have an invoice processing workflow doing 5,000 transactions a month that just failed spectacularly. At the same time, another workflow with only 200 transactions delivered a massive 340% ROI in just 7 months. So what was the difference? You guessed it. That lower volume process was super standardized. It was a perfect fit. And this gets to the heart of the cost trap. When you try to automate a messy, variable process, you don't actually eliminate the work. No way. You just create a new, expensive job, handling all the exceptions the software can't figure out. So you end up paying for the automation and for a new team to clean up its messes. Okay, so if it's not just about picking the high-volume tasks, what are the real culprits here? Let's basically perform an autopsy on these failed projects. We're going to uncover the 3 silent killers that are really responsible. All right, killer number 1, and it's probably the sneakiest. Process variability. This is all that hidden complexity that just completely derails projects. It's what creates that constant, endless stream of exceptions that your brand new automation just can't handle. And we can actually put some numbers to this. A good way to think about it is the rule you see here. If your standardization level is below 80%, meaning more than 20% of the time someone has to jump in and do something manually, you are not in the sweet spot for a high ROI. In fact, if you're below 60%, you're probably going to end up spending more than you did doing it manually. Okay, on to villain number 2. This is the domino effect. This is what happens when you fix one thing and you accidentally break something else. Maybe something you didn't even know was connected. Processes are not islands. They are deeply, deeply interconnected. Think about it. You speed up one part of the process and suddenly you've created an impossible deadline for the next team. Or you overwhelm them with volume they can't handle. Or maybe you break a data link, or you remove some informal hidden quality check that was happening without anyone even realizing it. Here's a crazy story. A real company automated its invoice approvals, taking them from 12 days down to just 90 minutes. Sounds great, right? Well, it destroyed their cash flow planning. They suddenly needed an extra $180,000 in working capital because they'd eliminated this accidental payment float their business had come to rely on. The automation itself worked perfectly, but the larger business system totally broke. And that brings us to our final villain, and this one might be the most insidious of all. It's the shadow process. This is what happens when you automate the process you think you have, instead of the one that's actually happening on the ground. So you open the company handbook, and you see this, the official process. It's beautiful, right? Customer submits an application, credit check, approval, account creation, welcome email. It looks perfect for automation. It's clean, linear, totally logical. But this is what's really happening, the shadow process. Look at all those extra steps. A manager calls to verify details. They manually update things. They negotiate terms if a credit check fails. They personally call the customer. These are all the crucial, informal workarounds that are actually keeping the business running. If you just automate that official process, you break all of this. You rip out the human judgment and the hidden quality checks that actually make it work. Okay, so now that we've identified these project killers, let's talk about the solution, because there is one, and it's not just about what you automate, It's about the order you do it in. It's about sequencing. Let's take procurement, for example. A classic costly mistake is automating invoice matching first. So many companies do this. But all you're really doing is automating the detection of upstream problems. You're just getting faster at finding out your manual purchase orders are sloppy. You end up with a massive queue of exceptions. You haven't automated success. You've just automated failure detection. No, the winning sequence is totally different. You have to build a foundation of trusted data first. You start by automating goods receipt so you have solid, trusted data on what you actually received. Then you use that trusted data to automate purchase orders so they're accurate. And only then, at the very end, do automate invoice matching. Now you're matching against clean, perfect data. And the results? They're absolutely dramatic. We saw one company do this exact sequence reversal. Their exception rate plummeted from 38% all the way down to under 5%. Think about that. Same automation tool, just a different order of implementation and a radically different outcome. So, how do you avoid all these pitfalls? How do you sidestep these silent killers? Well, it all boils down to one simple, incredibly powerful question you need to ask before you start any automation project. Before you spend a single dollar, ask yourself this: if this process runs 5 times faster tomorrow, what breaks? That one question, it forces you to map out all those dependencies. It makes you uncover the shadow processes. It forces you to think about the entire system, not just one isolated task. Honestly, that question is your best defense against becoming just another statistic.